So, hello. Just I correct something that Ludi said. We do not supervise Ukrainian analysts who work under the bombs. How could we supervise them? But we are witnesses of events without a witness. So I will talk about how you become a witness of events without a witness by chance. I quote a patient in the hospital where we used to work, and she said at the end of our work, when she went to a new life, she said, "By what chance did I meet you?" And of course, she reminded our first encounter in the hospital, which I will relate to you. And it was a chance encounter at the crossroad of our little histories and the big history. When Johannes Müller invited us years ago in Finland, we met Martti Sirala, who wrote From Transfer to Transference, and who gives a great importance to this crossroad of our job with the great history. And also, he was a friend with Benedetti, and I will show today how this meeting by chance opens the creation of a transitional subject, as Benedetti says, in between us for silenced matters, and which usually are kept in a frozen time. I will speak about this stoppage of time, which is the most difficult thing we have to face. Patients do progresses, and suddenly they go back to square one. Nothing happened. Psychoanalysis is useless. You are useless. And still we confront a present time, frozen. So I'm going to tell you about our first encounter with this lady. I met her. I did not know that she had been hospitalized previously when she was Satan, the great goddess of the earth, Kali, who wanted to destroy her creation. So we used to go there every Monday, and one beautiful Monday, she was sitting, it was the first time I met her, talking quietly with one of the most violent person in the world. They were like if they were having tea. So I came to her and I said, "Oh, you are an intern psychologist." And she turned to me and she said, "No, I am a psychotic. And you, what do you do here?" And so for the first time, I disclosed my other job. I never disclosed it to patients in the hospital. Oh, I work also in this Institute of Social Science, Social Silence. And I work we do a seminar called Madness and the Social Link, and the ruptures of the social link. She retorted right away, "Oh, apropos madness and the social link, you should know that my father, who was an Italian soldier, was the only survivor of a massacre by the British in the Battle of Al Alamein in 1942. She was very precise. I startled because my father had been also a survivor of a massacre by the Nazi on the pass above my birth town in the Alps. But I did not say anything at that time. I was supposed to be neutral. So she said, I remember the last time I saw her. She said, I remember our first meeting. You said, your delusion is a research. And she said also, you said no to me. No to alcohol, no to drugs. And she added, you did not know by then, but I also stopped prostitution. I did not remember that, no, but I remember that to say your delusion is a research. So what is her story? That unfolded little by little, of course. She was of Italian origin, and her parents were poor, so she was a good student. So to pay her studies, she became the secretary of a professor in psychology. At some point, her parents had a little cafe. I don't know how you say in Italian, where there was a home for elder people nearby, and she wanted to make a PhD on this institution. But the professor said, no, you are going to do a research on prostitution, and you will do observant participation or participant observation, which she did. After a while, of course, she was trapped, and she escaped to France. And I go very quick because there were a lot of landmarks. And then at some point, she was in a cabaret by chance, in Montparnasse, near the place where I live. At that time, no more now, there were a lot of cabarets. And the man, the boss, said to her, you should lit up this man. So she took her, wait a minute, lighter, and she lit up the man. So she was sent to her psychiatric hospital. Then she became delusional. It was her chance, her luck, you could say. I want to just say, of course, there were a lot of abuses, physical and political, because I won't go into that. But I will, because we were speaking yesterday about suicide, euthanasia, and so on. I just remind this morning, I did not thought to tell you one session. Oh yes, she said also, I don't want to see you in the hospital. I will see you in the dispensary. We used to work also in an outdoor consultation the afternoon. So I saw her during several years. But at one point, she came one day, and I saw the great goddess. She came, she said, my mission on earth is finished. In 1 month, I will go back to the galaxy, how will you call them? The extraterrestrians came to tell me that my mission on Earth is finished, and they called me back. Of course, I immediately thought of the soldiers who were massacred as the ghosts over there. But it would have been no use that I say, oh, you know, those extraterrestrians are your father's comrades. Because causality does not work in a frozen time. You know, if I say, oh, in the past, this is the cause of your trauma for the future effects today, it doesn't work because time stops. Why time stops? Because time is counted by symbols. And in such case, all symbolic order, I would say, like the symbolic chain, the symbols collapse. There is no more trust, no more truth. So we are left with intense images, visions, or voices, but which cannot be narrated a long time. Time stops. So quickly, I thought, well, I don't mention her father's comrade. So I said, oh, you know, she comes, they comes from the galaxy very far away. And the light toward us, I invented, you know, scientific something. The light to come to us may take years. And she smiled. "Oh," she said, "Einstein." And I said, "Thank you, Einstein." And that was it. So I give you this example because to the pregnancy, no, not la prégnance in French, of this topic of and of frozen world. Now, we deal with some theory. We deal with an unconscious which is not repressed. We were in the Lacanian school until his death in 81. Of course, Lacan said that the unconscious is the discourse of the other. But in such catastrophes, there is no other, no otherness, hence the total solitude, loneliness. We deal with an unconscious which is unrepressed, made of sensorial images which captured what happened, but which cannot be told according to a narrative. So Freud himself, in 1907, talked about that. You know, it's an old stuff that we forget repetitively. He talked about, in the Gradiva, which is the story of a delusion and of the cure of a delusion, he speaks of an unconscious, everything which is repressed is unconscious, he says, he writes, but everything which is unconscious is not always repressed. So he aimed toward another kind of unconscious, but he never said how to deal with that, to practice, in practice. Same thing for Lacan. He spoke about psychosis in a long seminars, never said how to deal with it. That's the problem, huh? So now, and second thing that Freud says in that commentary of a short story called Gradiva by German writer Wilhelm Jensen, he says, authors are our best allies. Or, as Jeanne, who is here, translated, Jeanne Wolf Bernstein told me, it's Bundesgenossen, and she said it means our best companions of journey, journey companions. So you should turn to literature, because there is more in literature than in all schools of psychoanalysis, says Freud. So I will tell you a little story. What time? Okay. A little story from our French author, Rabelais, François Rabelais, 16th century, who wrote at the time of the bloody wars of religion in France. There is the hero is a giant, Pantagruel. He's sailing on the northern sea. At some point, he hears voices, the giant. And so he asked the pilot, and the pilot say, the previous winter, the water were frozen and there was a big bloody battle there. And what you hear is faintly frozen speeches. The title of the chapter is Les Paroles Gelées. So they are falling on the deck like sweets on different colors, and the giant warms them in his hand. So when he warms them, they begin to shout what happened. And different colors, the women, the children, the horses, the cannon, and the battle can be told at that moment. So we deal with frozen speeches, but we have to sail on the same waters as our patients. That is not often that we can do that. The second thing I would, wait a minute. I don't remember where I am. Okay. Okay, it doesn't matter. Now that I tell you about, the one reference, which is for me important recently, is Bessel van der Kolk, because his book, that The Body Keeps the Score, recent book. And I like that book because he explains to me the reason of that stoppage of time. So, very, very quick. He said that in the face of extreme danger, the animal brain, he was a psychotherapist with Vietnam veterans, then couldn't do anything, turned to neurology, and in the 80s, he's my age. In the 80s, he became neurologist, and it was the beginning of the imagery, imagery. So he's talking from a scanner. Scanner? You say scanner? Who he took on two people who were completely spaced after a car accident. He sees that the animal brain at that moment takes over, with, like animals do to survive. They know better than we. They fight or flight, or they freeze. I remember in a forest, I saw a fur. Oh, a dead animal. I came to see this little fur, and it was a little deer. And I could see his eyelashes do like that. So he was as if he was dead. So that's the third reaction, or submission. You know, they offer their throat. And what is also important, on the scanner, you see that the neuronal pathways to the site of speech and time are blank. So time stops and words are no more available. I like that explanation. So that's exactly what happens. And we have, permit my image, we have to whistle what is written on the score of the body of the patient, which keeps the score. By chance, we have some tune that can resonate. Or I like whistle because in the old days, men whistled when I was a kid. Now they don't do anymore. It's a pity. And now I'm going to tell you about the Ukrainian stories, because it's exactly an encounter at each time by chance. That's what they say too. So by chance, in June 22, Jan Wolf-Bernstein, who is here, who is an analyst in Vienna, and Alexander Filz, they knew each other before the invasion, Russian invasion, and they were in contact with Freud Museum in Vienna. Both of them organized regular monthly, at the beginning every 2 months, and then monthly encounters with Ukrainian analysts working under the bombs, which they called psychoanalysis under conditions of war. By the way, we had always psychoanalysis under conditions of war, during First World War, during Second World War, during Vietnam War, Korean, not in France, not in Algerian War. So these findings, their findings, are periodically forgotten in between. When peace comes back, everybody goes back to mainstream theories and, you know, comfortable thinking. So we had to face people working under the bombs. At the first, I'm going to tell you about the first session, first meeting. In our first meeting, Alexander gave a statement. What we do is genuine psychoanalysis. Even if we do not use the couch, even if there are only a few sessions. And also, what is more important, neutrality is impossible. The breach of neutrality that I experienced with my patient in the hospital. He is the director of a clinic at Lviv, linked to the university, which became, after the invasion, a center for refugees and refugees and traumatized soldiers. So it's full. And I was a little stressed, you know, that first time. Which should we do? What should I say? So I gave a little talk on Salmon principles, which were invented for what they called forward psychiatry on the front lines in World War I. I had prepared. And suddenly, I had a vision. You know, there was the main person is, there are two people who are very important. The man in the Freud Museum who does the video, Peter Neumayer, and a translator, a simultaneous translator in Ukrainian and English called Oksana. And Alexander said to Oksana, "Oh, you look sad." And she said, "Of course, my husband is on the front." But what I saw, you know, there is a screen. At the bottom of the screen, I saw, I don't know how you say in English, une touffe de cheveux. Touffe de cheveux. A little, yeah, hair. Hair, some hair. I thought it's perhaps a dog, but I decided it was a girl, a baby girl. It was her daughter, baby girl. I decided like that. Why? Because at that age, I was under the bombs in the Alps, hiding in cellars, like I was listening in the news about Ukraine, running away on the other side of the river. And we were bombarded in 43. I was born in June 43, under the bombs from the pass that I had mentioned to that patient, some little Saint Bernard pass. So, of course, it was me who was, okay. So I say, Francoise, shut up. You have visions. And at the end, everybody said something, and I forgot to tell you, but Ludi told you, Jeanne invited Jerry from Austin Riggs, who is the ex-president of the Institute of Research, Ericsson Institute of Research, and me. And she did not know I know Jerry like I know Jim Gorney since 78, because they invited Jean-Max and I at Austin Riggs at that time. And by the way, I have to make a parenthesis in Jim. Yesterday, wonderful presentation. There is the role of chance. No, I go back. So at the end, everybody congratulates each other. And I dare to say, I want to congratulate the little person who is by her mother. And I risk to be taken as a... so we saw a face, laughing face of a little boy. A little older, perhaps 3 or 4. And I congratulated him for being so, comment on dit sage? Comment on dit sage? Why? Wise. At the side of his mother, and that he learned a lot. And so I took that advantage of that to say, you know, in those circumstances, when you hear the news or look at TV, you are, oh, what horrors, what atrocities, and so on, and so on, and so on. But those people have resources. I know that by experience. At that moment, a face came from the audience on the screen, a psychologist from Odessa, about resources, she said. She said it was the end of the day, She was tired with her friends. They went to the park. They sat on a bench and came toward them a young man without legs on a wheelchair, an ancient veteran soldier. He came to them and he said, "Girls, it's very dangerous to sit there alone. I will stay beside you to protect you." So that was the reverse, of the usual, oh, the poor man, the poor young man, and so and so. He had resources. Now, I will give you three other stories that they brought to us, because the first one is another Alexander who tells about, he has no problem to tell about himself, his journey, he said, to the way he's working now with soldiers, traumatized soldiers in the clinic. His journey started in Maidan, in history, in 2014. He was a military psychiatrist who had been, of course, learned with the Russians in a rhetoric of brotherhood. And suddenly, all that changed. And so he wanted to help the wounded. There was a very fierce repression, a lot of wounded physically, psychologically, and he did not know what to do. So he went back. When he was at home, suddenly he couldn't speak. He couldn't go out. He couldn't read. He couldn't move. He was catatonic almost. That lasted some time. And then he started to read again. And the man he read was Bion, who helped him. Bion, the part where he is a veteran, the books where he tells his war, First World War, past 70 years old. He wrote it past as if it was today. It's called the Long Weekend, not the last weekend, the Long Weekend. So he reads that and he goes back to work. Now he tells a story, and now he knows how to work with the patient from his own experience and background. See, he's with a soldier who is on the bed, cannot raise, he's trembling, stuttering, terrified, but he accepts, because I say that he accepts to talk, because very often the traumatized people say, "Go out, you have no right to make me speak." They reject at first the therapy. But this one was okay to speak. So he said that he was a very peaceful guy. He did not like war, but he had to transport wounded and dead comrades after an attack, and he became lightheaded, and everything started to whirl around, and he was trembling, stuttering in the state. So from his background, because he had gone through that experience, Alexander told him, in order to, that's what he says, to get him out of the trap of victimization and to allow some aggression that he forbid to himself. He quoted Bion. You cannot, so you gave me the reference, I forgot it, David. The sentence is, you cannot be a friend for your friends if you are not an enemy for your enemies. And they talked about that sentence. And the day after, the guy was up, smoking in the outside, and he said to the psychiatrist, "It's good that we talked." So now a second story. It's a woman, a young psychologist. A young psychologist, not at all a psychoanalyst. She is in the clinic. There is a section for prenatal problems. Arrives a woman who is ready to deliver, and she says, "I will deliver and I will stay in 6 days. I'm come from Poland. Then I will go back after 6 days because my little boy is there, has to go to school," and then mute. So the young psychologist is a little stressed, and she proposes that both of them, to relax, both of them breathe, you know, the usual breathing, and you stop, and you know that. They do that a long, long, long time. After what, the lady starts to speak. She has been raped by the Russians in her village in the northeast of Ukraine, which was destroyed. And she wanted to throw away that thing, that horrible thing that she carried. And she said also, little by little, that she did not tell her family because they had enough to worry about. So she took she had a little boy, she took him, and they crossed the border toward, I don't know if it's Belarus, because her name was consonant with Polish name, so they let her go. She went all through Belarus, the Baltic states, arrived in Poland, find quickly a home and a job, and she had left her little boy to deliver that thing. So the chance that time was grammatical. This young psychologist had the idea suddenly to tell her, he or she, and not it, will be adopted by good people. The grammar is the pronouns, also the future. She opens the future. The woman did not care and delivered, and she had a cesarean section, you say, and it was a boy with a cleft palate. And immediately, the psychologist said, he will be operated, he will have surgery with good practitioners, good surgeons, good staff. And as soon, and the lady could walk very quickly, even with that, because she wanted to go back. Before that, she took her in the natal, I don't know how you say, natal surgery block, not block, but clinic, so that she sees who will take care of her son. She then, after 6 days, go back. But from Poland, she writes to that psychologist. And I think that she gave birth to a political subject. I can say a little more afterward. So, after this, from the audience, a psychoanalyst Ukrainian appeared on the screen and said, "It looks like a singular story." I remember when I was young. Oh, the psychoanalyst is about the individual, and we have to take care of the collective. And that was a trap. Because in those stories, the individual is not alone. It speaks. That's what the lady said when she appeared on the screen, she speaks for all women in Ukraine who are raped as a weapon, according to a weapon of war. Rape is a weapon of war, and there are masses of them. And this story speaks for them. Now, I go my third story, which was last week, no, 2 weeks ago. By the way, you can see those meetings. They are recorded on the site of the Freud Museum under the title Psychoanalysis Under the Conditions of Truth. And except 2 or 3, they're all recorded, so you can verify if what I say is true or a lie. So the third one was last time. 5 minutes. Very quickly. It's the, I don't know if, okay. It's the story of a paralyzed soldier who was a drug addict all along. And the psychologist said, you have to stop. And she said, I was a drug addict, and I stopped. And each time he tried to excuse himself, she would say, you lie. And she confronted him. So he stopped. But the problem was that to stop, she brought 3 men from a rehab clinic nearby who would stay in turn with him while he was stopping. And he became handsome, but he fell in love with her. And so she asked the questions. Is it an erotomaniac transference? And I immediately answered, no, you are Dulcinea, the lady of the thoughts. And now I'm going to speak of the transference in such cases. You are the lady of the thoughts, which was invented by warriors poets in the 12th century, courtly love. They invented it because they were fed up with raping women and, you know, all those atrocities. So they invented courtly love. And it's not a mother. She's beyond. She's the possibility to think, the lady of the thoughts, the address of your thoughts when thinking is impossible. So now the transference. I go to Don Quixote because I love literature, like before that, literature, like Freud said. You have in Finland a masterpiece, which I was reading now, that Johannes Mure gave me, which is called The Unknown Soldier, by Vaimo, I don't know how to pronounce, Lina. And the first pages, it's during the war, what the soldiers ask from the first page, when they are going to war, is a pad of paper and a pen to write to their Dulcinea. Even women that they don't love, they have to write to a woman. When the law of men collapses completely, feminine agency arrives to think. So it's not only a question of feelings. We speak a lot about emotions, feelings, which are frozen, but what is frozen also is the intelligence. Our patients, they have a clandestine intelligence, underground intelligence. And when you have that address, you can dare to express all what you recorded, what you saw with a very fine vigilance. So the transference, I end with that, is 4 bearings. The knight, Don Quixote, the patient, his therapist, Sancho Panza. Remember that in the Iliad, another literature, therapeutic epic, I always say that. My son says, Mommy, you rumble. So I rumble. That therapist etymology is therapone, Achilles and Patroclus, the second in combat. That is the etymology of our word. So Sancho is the therapist, and you have Dulcinea, the lady of the thoughts, and you have the motor of the transference. Rocinante and the donkey, they go very slowly, they collapse, but sometimes they have very quick accelerations, like the rhythm of our therapies. And now I just end, yes, I end by quoting the Kalevala, because I'm in the land of the Kalevala. When we were because there is an image of that power of interaction. When we were visiting Karelia, we did not see, but we were told about the singers of the Kalevala. And, you know, I spoke of the giant who warms the frozen speeches in his hands. Here, there is also hands taking each other, and I did not see that, but only on the video. They sing, I don't know, I hope you will show me. They sing together. And this rhythm gives the power of the epic, which is a story of wars, of loss of the sampo, the riches, of impossible love, of suicide, and more than that, of beauty, nature, and hope. Thank you so much.